Here we're going to explore the world around a show that I'm making called The Party. Involves a 5-group party consisting of a human, a orc, an elf, a tiefling, and a warforged. These individuals are trying to escape persecution, which we find out very quickly that there is danger around. Starts off in a small little gnome village where we just kind of see them interacting with the gnomes around them. And then in the night, the armies of humans show up. Some chaos ensues, and they quickly regroup and try to fight their way out of the danger to get out into the outside world and get away from them. We're not given too much information about them right away. We're just kind of thrown right into the thick of it. The reason for that is that we've already established that they know each other, that they're working with each other, and later on we discover that they don't know their own names, or each other's names for that matter. Memory loss and memory games is no new thing to D&D. There's lots of spells and stuff like that. But for the sake of this story, we don't know if they ever knew each other's names or their own names. And through the course of the first season, we will delve into that a little bit. There'll be some opportunities for them to get clues as to who they are, where they come from. Eventually, they will discover that they have a common origin, and that they're actually escaped slaves from the human kingdom that worships Zaris. But that's stuff that it gets exposed over the course of the whole season. I'm not really giving away too much with that right now. There are other monsters, adventures, and stuff. They really kind of just fortuitously fall into being adventurers as they're trying to escape. They're not the typical characters that just decided they wanted to do it to be rich. They just kind of have nothing to their name, and they're just trying to run, and they just find themselves starting to have these mini adventures. There are a couple of traditional dungeon delving scenarios and adventures there, but there's plenty on the surface as well. I do try to scale their combat, try to have it so that they started roughly around level 1 in the very first episode, the pilot. So for the whole story of the Morning Without Mercy, they should be about level 1, where they're getting their experience, not so much for defeating their foes as much as escaping. They do have to combat and defeat a few here and there, but they're mostly just trying to fight to flee. Later on, they'll see some wildlife, and then eventually they'll end up in a dungeon, and they'll have some other random encounters. Eventually I would like to have bigger encounters, bigger monsters like the purple worm or a dragon, or maybe even be stuck between 2 dragons who are fighting. These are all really great opportunities. But I don't want to let you think that there's just going to be a bunch of, no story. I do plan on having this tiered out, where I have a 5-season arc, where there's a completion at 5 seasons. There's a completion for each individual season. And then, of course, there'll be episodic adventures going through to give that nice layered story. Where you have a little bit that you get to complete each episode, and you have that big one to come up at the end of the season, and then at the end you have that big arc at the end of 5 seasons. My first season is starting, like I said, with them not knowing where they came from. The second season will be a prelude season where we go back to life before the escape, and then we'll jump back into third season, letting off where first season ended. After that, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe I will probably stick with being, completely in line with the timeline, with memory loss being a story part, a story tool, if you will. The lapse back and forth makes sense between seasons 1 and 2. So you kind of start off with them not knowing anything, and then at the end of season 2, you know why certain things happened, why they did certain things, even if they didn't know in the moment, and you didn't either, but then you get to learn. I do think that that's going to be a really good story. I do think that these characters have great value. And there's one thing that the core party is going to be woefully lacking in the beginning. It's going to be lacking a strong magical presence. Their arcane magic is going to be a warlock and nothing else. They will have a cleric of Palor, where he came from and how he got to be with them will be explained in season 2, as well as ties to a number of other things. There'll be other combats, other monsters like blink dogs or things like that. Trolls, war trolls. I do plan on being creative with it, and those will not be end of season monsters. Those are monsters that will be either multi-episode or single episode. But all in all, I think I do really have a good story going on here. It's something I've been working on mostly with the intent of it being a campaign for D&D 3.5, which is where most of my mechanics are built around. But I rarely get to ever play or host a game. I do have elements of being at sea. There's a pirate character. I do have a traveling chef character, which I did play as a regular character. That would be Zeph, the chef. He's an older man who never really considered himself a hero. He was a traveling chef for adventurers for a long time and didn't step into the mantle of being a hero until he decided to retire. And there's a story that I share with him, his origin and how he found a place called Daggerford. And eventually I intend to reveal what happened at Daggerford. But that will be a story arc in itself.